I'm going to read you something I wrote recently. The art world doesn't care about artists. When you hear about the art world, you probably think of the small, insular monoculture that the media celebrates for its record breaking sales, fancy galleries, billionaire collectors, and lavish galas full of privileged fart sniffers. That isn't us. We are the artists who want to do the work to make a living from our art. We care more about community and personal growth than anything else. We are not the art world, we are the world of art. The world of art is vast, exciting, raw, and inspiring. You can't relegate us to a white cube. We don't judge you based on which school you went to, or which gallery you show at, or which billionaire uses you as a tax haven. We care about practice. We care about participation. We've come together across borders and mediums to say, fuck that system. Let's create our own. Let's create a world of abundance. Let's work together to accelerate the success of the collective. The art world is not a zero-sum game. We can all win, and we will all win together. So, TMFA community started in around spring of 2016. I had been practicing art for about 2 years. I had had enough success with my practice because of Instagram and the ability to sell direct to collector that I opened up a big co-working space that I either rented out to other artists. So each artist would get like a section of the floor here with their own desk, or I gifted to artists and helped facilitate their career growth. That was a cool model. And that was like me realizing the art world doesn't care about me. So I have to build my own community of artists. And what ended up coming out of that was we started to create our own group shows. So we didn't ask for permission to be in group shows at existing galleries. We started renting spaces like coffee shops and creating our own group shows, and then hacking the media to give ourselves distribution for our group shows. So for example, this show, over 70 artists created a portrait of Kanye West, and it was while Kanye West was touring. And because we all created portraits, the media had to pay attention to this show, especially because Kanye was in the news cycle. And we all got more exposure from our work than had we just created a portrait of Kanye by ourselves. And that's when it really crystallized in my mind that there is a power in building a collective. And then in the spring of 2017, everyone started wanting to take selfies in front of murals. So we started creating murals for businesses and brands. We've worked with everyone from Ford and Gucci and Amazon and Google to a little coffee shop called Alfred and a music ranch out in Joshua Tree. And these were all community created projects. The community at this time was that small co-working space of artists that I had created in LA. And we would all collaborate using our different skill sets to make these murals happen. And everyone got to participate in the upside of the revenue generated. Then in the winter of 2017, we started to realize we could like hack the media. And so an artist called Jesus Hands out of our studio climbed up on the Hollywood sign and turned the Hollywood sign into Hollyweed. And then a group of around 10 of us got together and painted an entire block of houses millennial pink. And it kept going this way, where we had this small crew of like 20 or so people in LA painting murals, doing stunts, getting together, going to gallery shows, sharing knowledge. And 2018 through 2020, we did similar stuff. And the projects kept getting a little bit more exciting, like the private jet experience, where we actually constructed the fuselage of a private jet to kind of demystify the status symbol that was the private jet on social media. And then COVID hit. And so I was a little bit confused. We couldn't be out in the streets painting murals. We couldn't be making headline worthy projects because the news was all about what was happening to the economy and COVID. So I wanted to try to recreate what we had in the analog world, but in a digital space. So we brought together around 60 artists, and we all co-created a painting that was our dream studio. So every element of this painting was contributed by a member of this 4-week process through which we conceptualized, designed, executed, and sold this painting. It was such a success that some members of the community asked to do it again, and some new members joined in. So we did then the August painting and the September painting. And through those processes, we realized that there was like kind of this common thread, which is that we were all looking for space to gather and we wanted to collaborate. And a lot of us had similar questions on how to advance our art careers. So a member called Nathan Dunn, who lives in Australia, stepped up and said, hey, I'm an expert at creative thinking. What if I taught a workshop similar to the May, August, and September paintings in October and called it Creative Thinking, where he created workbooks for us and he led us through a 4-week process through which we all got more creative, through redaction, through creating constraints, through just general creative processes. And then it occurred to us as a community that we needed a centralized place to store all the stuff that we were doing and talk about it. And that's where the community dashboard came in. So if you haven't already, you should have signed up for the community dashboard. And this is the place where we kind of aggregate all the information relevant to the community. And we allow you as a community member to submit workshops and projects and clubhouse rooms and all sorts of stuff so that we can get them on our community calendar. In December, one of our youngest members, a guy called Fenric, who's still in college, I think he's 19 now, said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could interact with each other every day and learn about each other's practice through Instagram pods? So we spun up our first pods in December. We're now on season 3 of pods, which will launch next week. And if you've gone through the onboarding process and provided your Instagram and opted into being in a pod, you're going to be put in a pod with a group of 28 or so other artists, wherein we'll provide you with prompts to engage with each other. You'll be able to cross-promote each other's work. And you'll be able to get information about upcoming events and activities and projects happening throughout the community. Then in December, we also realized that there were a number of like back office things or resources or frameworks that weren't readily available to artists in our community. So within the TMFA lab, we now have a template for tracking your inventory and building inventory line sheets into PDF so that your practice looks and feels professional to collectors and galleries. We have a media training kit and a press tracking kit. We have 4 form agreements, from consignment agreements to mural services agreements to representation management agreements that we're trying to standardize so that we're looking out for the collective and we're making sure that all the deal terms that you might want to be paying attention to are accounted for. We have client management. We have an artist tech stack where you can go to find all of the latest tech tools that you might want to be using as an artist. And we have a library that's a crowdsourced list of all the great podcasts, movies, books, and other resources that community members find valuable. In December, we did a project that kind of took the world by storm and really kind of like supercharged the community in terms of member growth. And then by January, we're actually had weekly programming that was facilitated by various community members. Some of my favorite programming includes what we're seeing here, which is Faceless's still life drawing workshop. We also had a life drawing workshop where we'd hire a live nude model to pose for us. We've had meditation workshops and yoga workshops with Melissa. We have watercolor workshops. We have mental health and wellness workshops. You know, we have all sorts of kinds of interesting weekly programming that's happened over the last 6 months that I think has both enriched my life, but also upskilled me in a certain way. And we're going to talk more about where that's going. And then we had members who started to pitch projects, like Eric Junk out of LA, who's a photographer, said, hey, I want the resources to send Pelican case camera kits of disposable cameras to members all over the world. And everyone would take 5 photos, and then we create a group show at the end of that once all the cameras were returned. And that turned out really cool. And that's an example of like a community member led project that we, as let's call the leadership within the community, we're able to facilitate by providing distribution for the project, by providing resources and support, because we thought it was a cool collaborative effort for the community. And then in February, I discovered this thing called social tokens. And I didn't quite know what it was just yet. But the general idea is it allows creators and communities to create their own economies where they can trade these tokens to keep track of participation, to gate certain features of communities, and then ultimately to participate in the governance or the decentralized governance of the community. I'm going to be publishing a lot more information on how we're planning on using the social token to govern our community and how we're building a treasury of resources that will be allocated to members of the community who want to contribute their time and resources in exchange for building the community with us. We, in February, also started doing community drops in the NFT space. This drop was really successful. Every community member that participated, there were 50 community members who submitted their work before the deadline, and they all made a reasonable amount of money, like more than $1,000 from making an image, submitting it to a collection. So if you remember the Kanye collection from 2016, fast forward to NFT land, we recreated that framework and it was a massive success. We also partnered with NFT Oasis, which is a VR alt space where we had a gallery show of the Beeple collection, which a bunch of members, including Cartella, hung out in and helped facilitate. In March, we launched our token gated Discord. So in order to access it, you had to have 10 art coins, which kept the quality of conversation extremely high. In April of 2021, we did our Stoned Elon project on 420. We partnered with the Rally community, who is the platform that enables ArtCoin to exist, to launch the Stoned Elon project on OpenSea, only accepting Rally in exchange for payment. And we had 69 artists participate in this project. In April of 2021, a weed dispensary in LA, as the world was opening back up, hired our community to go out and paint a mural on their new dispensary. And 100% of the revenue generated from that project was passed through to the 5 or 6 community members who helped plan that mural, execute that mural, document that mural. And they did such a great job that we have murals lining up for them to continue to earn revenue by participating in. In May of 2021, ASAP Rocky's team and agency found our Discord, posted a job listing, and our very own Faceless designed a collaboration with ASAP Rocky for, I believe it was an NFT. So in our Discord, brands and agencies and patrons and collectors are finding artists in our community to give them resources to continue their practice. And that's a signal that this is starting to work. In May of 2021, Cartella and Narane decided to facilitate the Grimes drop. Over 100 artists in the community participated. So you'll notice a trend here. We went from 50 artists participating to 69 artists participating to more than 100 artists participating. And while this drop wasn't as financially lucrative as some of the other drops, it was a drop that educated everyone in the community on how to actually mint their own NFTs and how to interact in the crypto space. So it was this massive learning acceleration for everyone who participated in this project. In May of 2021, this year, AMAC and JoJo Sunshine, AKA Maggie, decided they wanted to launch the About the Artist podcast, which happens on Wednesdays almost every week. I know they're taking a short break for the summer, but they're interviewing members of our community and talking about, like, what was your background? How did you get into art? And building a podcast for our community to add to our programming and editorial pillar, which is a fundamental core of growing this community. So these podcasts will soon be published, so you could listen to interviews with folks like Faceless and myself and AMAC and many others. I think Cartella did one as well. Narane did one. and catch up on that, but then also just submit a form and join the podcast. In May of 2021, Vasco and Ale from Peru, Vasco's from LA and Ale's from Peru, were selected from our artist directory by the Billboard Music Awards to create an NFT collaboration with Trade the Truth for the Changemaker Award presented on national television. And that was pretty cool. They made money and they got exposure for their work as a result of being in the artist directory and as a result of the story that the TMFA community is telling to the world at large. So that was really exciting. In May of 2021, we also did our first in-person meetup. I think we had somewhere between 20 and 30 people at any given time join an art walk where we started at MoMA and then we went down to Chelsea and checked out all the galleries. And then we went down to the Lower East Side and then we had a happy hour. And this was awesome because we all got to meet each other and we got an opportunity to see art together and talk about art together. And that was something I greatly missed during the pandemic. And so we're excited to have community members volunteer to host art walks in their own cities if they know the gallery and museum ecosystem well, and open that up to existing community members and open that up to the broader world to invite them into our community. And this is a really easy way to earn some art coin by facilitating a community walk. We also launched TMFA Creative Commons, which is a way for you to volunteer your images, your photos, your brushes, your filters, whatever it may be, to the Creative Commons for anyone to use and remix. So move over Getty Images, we're creating our own Creative Commons that allows everyone to collaborate and to start to remix each other's work and provide royalty-free assets to each other so that we can make cool stuff. So you'll be able to find within the community dashboard the Creative Commons and contribute to it and or borrow from it. We launched the artist directory, which is a major driver in gigs for our community. If you aren't already in the artist directory, you'll be able to find it in the community dashboard and you can request to have your information added. You're gonna need to have a registered account with us so that we have your contact information and we know that you've agreed to our terms of service before you're inside of the artist directory, because we wanna make sure that folks that we're recommending working with brand partners or working with collectors have been vetted and have gone through the process of understanding our value set and are committed to participating and helping out in our community. So today, and sorry for the long-winded presentation, but a lot has happened. We are arguably the leading global art community. We aim to accelerate the careers of our members. That is the core goal. We want to help 10,000 artists make $100,000 a year and have $1 billion impact on cultural production independent of the art world in the next few years. And I think it's totally possible. We're tokenizing our economy through something called ArtCoin, which will allow us to function as a decentralized autonomous organization. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. It's brand new, but it's this new way for communities to self-organize and to build microeconomies that are specifically tailored to that community or economy. And so if you don't know what a DAO is, do your research. There's conversations happening in our Discord. I'm going to be doing more writing on the structure of our DAO, our treasury, our governance. And then ultimately, everyone in this community within a year or so is going to start to have a say in how community resources are allocated that are gained as a result of these collaborative projects we do, and as a result of our growing member base, and as a result of new people buying ArtCoin and the value of ArtCoin going up as a result of the economy growing. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create meaningful workshops, facilitate projects, and build a knowledge base for all to enjoy. So what does the future hold? We've built something that feels a mile wide and an inch deep, or let's call it a kilometer wide and a centimeter deep for those who are outside of the US, because we didn't really know what we were doing. As you can see, we've really been shooting from the hip, but we've coalesced around like these 6 core pillars moving forward. We know editorial is going to help grow our community. So we're thinking like a newsletter that is an aggregation of all the interesting information TMFA community is sharing in our Discord channel that we send out weekly, that anyone, even non-members, would enjoy reading and learn from. And we're looking for people to step up to help us lead the editorial team, and we can offer tokens in the art economy in exchange for that participation. We're leveling up our programming. We've seen a lot of members apply to facilitate workshops, but we haven't built out a structure that enables active learning, enables kind of like inclusive participation, and creates like a credentialization of members as they move through different workshops, or an accreditation of members as they move through workshops, so you can qualify for higher and higher quality workshops as we go. So if you think about workshops, there's like the fundamentals, like 2-point perspective and shading and color theory. And we want to teach all that stuff you might learn in art school in simple modules. And then stack on top of that, maybe a material-based workshop like watercolor or charcoal, where some people might not have access to those materials. So we want to make sure that everyone that enters those workshops either has a scholarship through the Treasury to access those materials, and or buys those materials, so that everyone has a level playing field. And if you move even higher up the stack, we're talking about like 6 to 8 week cohort-based projects and courses that either are aimed at generating significant revenue or adding significant skills to you as an artist. Tooling. Right now, our tech stack is insane. We've been hodgepodging this thing together. Ann and I are on the core team. We and a number of other members are getting together to try to figure out how to streamline our onboarding process, because it probably felt pretty robust. We're trying to figure out what is the minimum amount of tools that we can be using to make this thing work, and how can we incorporate our social token into all of that tooling. And then finally, there's 2 more points and then I'm almost done. Gigs. If you're in the directory, I used to work in advertising. I understand how to talk to brands. Every day we get a brand that reaches out that wants to work with artists. What we're trying to do is fight for the rights of artists, make sure they get fairly compensated, make sure that the gigs are abundant. And as a result of the scale of our community and the organization of our community, we're able to actually execute on these gigs like no one else, like no other art collective, like no other agency. So we're building this unique moat around ourselves where we're going to start to see like an inflow of all sorts of gigs. And so long as you're interested in participating and active in our community, we're going to try to provide you with those gigs. And then finally, I know we're borderless and the internet makes it so that we can be this global distributed community, but an ambition of mine is to build an art town or a startup city. And so I've moved to a small town in eastern New Mexico. This may be the hub of our startup city. It may take place somewhere else, but I'm going to be sharing that journey in hopes that it helps grow our community and provides like a testing bed for new and interesting ideas like mural festivals or art fairs, or things that allow us to participate at scale together IRL. But I want to let you know that this is a labor of love. This is something that's going to take time, and this is something where it's all about us coming together to make it happen. The only reason we've got this far is because of the generosity and the participation of our existing community members. We're trying to make this as flat an organization as possible. We're trying to make it so that everyone has a voice, and we're doing our best. So